In this case, though, I feel it is a travesty that the person was arrested by the police in the first place. Not because he's rich or poor, but because when, as a civilized society, we have to follow rules. As unfortunate as it is, in our country, there are several laws which are very, very lacking. It may be very emotionally overwhelming for a lot of people. This rich kid crashed into people, as we assume privilege, we assume wealth means privilege and the fact that he should get away. I ask anybody who's watching, if this was not a kid in a Lamborghini but a kid in a Maruti 800, then did he deserve to be arrested and stay in jail? If so, approach your local lawmaker and ask him to make grievous hurt by rash and negligent act a non-bailable offense. The absurdity of a system, just because there is a little bit of hue and cry, just because, let us assume that this was a spoiled kid who crashed into a a bunch of people, caused injuries. And the travesty is, this thing has been lamented by people all over the country for the past several years, that in hit and run cases, or in even death by rash and negligent acts, it was a bailable offense until recently. Now, the absurdity of our system and the way laws are made is because there were a few cases here and there. One, the lack of logic of our honorable Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court says, if the logics that were created, right, which we can talk about over here because it's a pertinent fact, if it's a rash and negligent act, if you cause an accident and that caused the death, it's a bailable offense. But if you were drunk while you caused the rash and negligent act, somehow the Supreme Court comes up with the logic which I've never agreed with, which I could never make sense of, which is that if you were drunk, then you should have known that you being drunk and then driving, that the chances of causing death is so high that we will not say this was death by rash and negligent act. This was actually culpable homicide, which whatever was the way that the rash and negligent act was caused. If it was rash and negligent act, you cannot start attributing more. But what happened, according to me, was the Honorable Supreme Court said there is a lack in legislation. People should not be able to get away by killing someone, even if by mistake. So let us, at least in drunk driving cases, attach this more severe penalty. The government also steps in after a bunch of people die, and the government starts doing this, this BNS, legislation. They come up with this absurd logic, which I've talked about in the past. In a hit and run case, if you do not inform the authorities and then you run away, then there will be a higher penalty in comparison to if you just hit and run and then you call up the police. The logic is, I am supposed to tell on myself if I cause any accident and that accident causes death. Anyways, that is maybe perhaps too much to go into for the purpose of this particular video. Here I say, but the thing is, that is for death by rash and negligent act. Here there was no death either. And as emotional as you get about the plight of that poor person on the street who got run over, would you have felt so much of anger if the person who got run over was not a rickshawala, not a poor person, but in fact another Lamborghini owner? Then perhaps it would not have been so bad. Would it have been so bad if the person doing the running over was not a Lamborghini owner or Lamborghini owner's son, but in fact a person driving a Maruti 800? It would not have been so bad. Now, I have not gone through the bail order myself. I have read reports about what the bail order cited. A lot of times, it's very unfortunate, especially in non-metropolitan cities. The judge, according to me, it should have been reported that the judge should have said, how can you take a person into custody in a bailable offense? But apparently, from the news report, it seems that the judge granted bail citing procedural irregularities and the undertaking given by the person. According to me, no matter how emotional we get, and I must say this, if it was my own, one of my parents, one of my close family members who got hit, I would be angry. I might go and murder the person myself. But will I expect the police to arrest the person under a non-bailable offense when there is lack of legislation? Then I will be afraid to step out of my own house, because I don't know tomorrow for what. Maybe I threw a plastic wrapper outside the trash bin and then I'm arrested. And then perhaps I'm sent to jail for 10 years. I don't know. There has to be a rule of law, has to be followed.